For those of you who don't know who I am, which, unless you were at last year's dinner, is probably most of you, my name is James Orr. I'm a current master here at the school. I was in Solomon House from 2005 until 2009. Much better than the reaction I got at last year's dinner for saying that. I returned in 2016 as a staff member and was placed in Solomon House again. So you can get lucky twice in life. And in addition to all of that, I have the most important job here at the school, in that I'm the master in charge of the pipe band. And I have the pleasure of being your master of ceremonies this evening at the 100th annual Old Boys Dinner. Now, gentlemen, it is very fitting that we are hosting the dinner in the hall this evening, because this is the exact spot where they first met 100 years ago. And I'll get into a bit of the history behind that a little bit later. Before I launch into my full introduction, just a couple of house rules. If you're looking for the bathrooms, some of you might not have had the pleasure of attending a dinner in this hall before. They're under the west wing, just over there. And, and upstairs, just before you go under the gallery in that tunnel, there's another set of bathrooms there. No. Those of you who do smoke, if you really have to, please smoke outside. Please do not smoke inside the buildings, the school buildings. Please rather smoke at the front of the school. Or if you would like to relive your past rebellions, you can always just trek up to the koppie and you can pretend that Mr. Hazenkamp is looking for you or something. I'm sure many of you are aware that the price of the drinks tonight is included in your ticket price, and there were many reasons for this. There's lots of talk of liquor licenses and public schools, and I think I would just like to reveal to you tonight that the real reason was we were growing concerned at the amount of confused looks we saw on Risic Old Boys' faces when they were trying to figure out whether they got the right change. The mathematics was just a bit of a challenge. And so we just removed that element to make the evening more enjoyable. We have regalia on sale this evening, and many of you have located the table already. It's in the northeastern side of the hall, just over there. Those of you who want to purchase a 100th Old Boys Dinner tie, made specially for this event, you may do so over there, and the range of gear we have. And in addition to this, we also have Mr. Bill Schroeder's book on sale this evening, and you may purchase a copy at the regalia table. He's very kindly indicated that any proceeds from this evening will go to the Cherry Schroeder Memorial Scholarship, which is being instituted here at the school. In addition to that, Bill will be available at the end of the evening for those of you who would like to have your copies signed of his book. It's very lovely having such a high turnout of old boys here this evening, but a very hard part of my job tonight is to make sure that the evening runs on schedule. And Jeff Mayer tells me that very famously, Mr. Malcolm Armstrong, when he was headmaster, stood up to give his reply to the guest speaker, one old boys dinner at 1:45 in the morning. And I think we can all see how that very easily would happen. I really don't want Tony Reeler to suffer in the same way. So if you would please, gentlemen, when I call you to your tables, if you would please be prompt, I would really appreciate it. At the main table this evening, on my far left, we have the Reverend Alan O'Brien. Seated next to him, we have the President of the Old Boys Association and a legend among us, Mr. Tony Wilkes. The man next to him, I once made the mistake of calling my old headmaster, but he is my former headmaster and former headmaster of the school, Mr. Bill Schroeder. Next to Bill, we have the second master of the school, a man with over 30 years of service to Boys High, Mr. John Ilsley. Seated next to John, we have our headmaster, Tony Rila. Next to Tony, we have Jason Weber, the current chairman of the Old Boys Association. And finally, next to Jason, we have Mr. Greg Hazenkamp, our guest speaker for the evening. Now, the Old Boys Association is a very proud organization, but very few of us actually have any understanding of our roots, where we came from. And I was asked this evening to give a little bit of the history behind this event. And Mr. Keith Gibbs spent a lot of time, and I'm very grateful for this, transcribing the original Old Boys supplements that were published in the Praetorians, dating back from 1914. And thankfully, I could then peruse all of this information and not actually worry about damaging the original copies, which I'm pretty sure nobody would have allowed me access to. And I went through about 50 years worth of these Old Boys reports, and I learned a lot doing so. And the first mention we have of an Old Boys Association, or any attempt of it, is in 1914, where an anonymous writer in the Old Boys segment, which served the purpose of letting the current boys know where the various Old Boys were, he wrote the following: "Now if a school not be merely brick or mortar, not a house built with hands, it is clear that those who have already gone out from it are far too important a factor in its life to be left out of its reckoning." And if those of you, any of you seated here tonight are not sure what I just said, Mr. Keith Mansfield is present. He's a very good English teacher, and I'm pretty sure he'll be able to help you understand that tonight. But unfortunately, this drive to create an Old Boys Club, as they called it then, was hampered by the outbreak of World War I. And during the course of World War I, the Old Boys segment served a very important purpose in that it recorded a lot of the unfortunate deaths, but along with a lot of the accomplishments of our boys and Old Boys while they were away fighting the war. And so when the war ended, the first Old Boys dinner was held. And the first evidence of this is in the 1920 Praetorian, in the chairman's report, the first chairman of the Old Boys Association, Mr. Carson Cross. And I'll read that segment to you this evening. He says, "In December of last year, so 1919, the school issued invitations to Old Boys of the school to attend a reunion. And about 60 Old Boys responded, and an enjoyable day was spent. And gentlemen, tonight we have over 400 Old Boys, which in itself I think deserves a round of applause." Now, Mr. Cross goes on to say, "Cricket was played during the day, and in the evening, supper, which was a powerful testimony to the skill of the matrons of the three houses, was laid in the big hall of the school." And I'm pretty sure that no matter what anybody said about the skill of the matrons, the boys at the time were complaining about the food in the boarding house. "After the feast, the meeting was held, and it was then resolved that an Old Boys Association be formed. A committee was formed at once, and this committee has during the year experienced all the difficulties which attend the work of organizing a society which the potential members are scattered broadcast over a big country and have left no addresses. More especially in the matter of the yearly subscription, 5 shillings. On the other hand, the committee is by no means despondent. It is necessary that the beginning should be slow, and the sure guarantee of future success is in the fact that a great majority of Old Boys, in spite of appearance, are proud of their connection with the old school. I think their appearance does not mean long hair and a beard. I think it means rocking up. Once the desirability of renewing that connection and maintaining it has been impressed upon them, they are sure to become keen members. One object has already been gained for us. The school is undertaken to hold a reunion every year on the first Saturday of December, and thus it will be possible for old friends to meet one another at least once a year under the old and pleasant conditions." And after that, he goes on at length to complain about how they are very much struggling to get permanent physical addresses for Old Boys. And after that, they met every single year, the exception being 1944, where they unfortunately had to put the dinner off because of World War II. Now, gentlemen, the first order of business this evening is for grace to be given, and the man we have saying grace for us tonight is Reverend Alan O'Brien, who I introduced very briefly earlier this evening. Reverend O'Brien is an ex-member of the staff, having taught at the school from 1985 to 2008. He was a master in Solomon House, a master in Schoolhouse, and a senior housemaster in Townhouse. And as you've already heard this evening, there's been a couple of calls for Foxy around the hall this evening. He was affectionately known as Foxy during his time.